All right. So in the wide segment itself, these are some different categories of oh no, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. In the wide segment itself, I'm going to explain what this is, and then some of the tactics and uses and stuff like that. After we get this through this particular thing, I'll make sure you guys are good, and then I'll explain to you what these different segments could look like. Okay. So the wide segment, I think of this as like top of a funnel. So you guys have a click funnel, for example. It's got an opt-in page, and then you send them to a VSL page or registration page for a webinar, something like that. That's a funnel. But inside of our email marketing efforts, we're actually creating a funnel itself. I call this wide segment. This is our bucket that we can pour from. So if you go to get a glass of tea out of a pitcher, right, you're probably not going to drink right out of the pitcher, right? Does this make sense? But what you will do is you'll pour your tea out of the pitcher and you'll put it into a glass or glasses, and then you'll drink out of the glass itself, right? That's the purpose of this wide segment. It's to narrow down the contents of a large group and put it into a smaller group so it can be consumed. All right. So here's some tactics on how you can actually apply this. All right. First one is going to be aggressive subject lines. Okay. Not spammy, but aggressive. You are really going to have to work to get open rates, especially when you're first starting to use this. All right. Does everybody know the difference between spammy and aggressive? Give me like a 2 in the chat, if that makes sense, if you understand the difference between spammy and aggressive. I'm getting some no's. Okay, fair enough. All right. So it's good. I thought ahead. I was like, this is probably going to be a question. So here's an example of an aggressive subject line. Okay. So the subject line could be, can you join this call? And then put their first name. Now, this will only work if there is a call to show up to a webinar, a video, or maybe you do have a live call going on for whatever particular offer that you're promoting. Okay. This particular subject line itself, if you want to swipe it word for word, you can. I wouldn't recommend it. But you can use this type of email subject line, and this is going to increase the open rates, because when people see that and it's top of inbox, and I'll explain more about what top of inbox means later on. But when someone sees this, they're like, what do you mean? Can I join this call? What call are you talking about? I wasn't registered for a call. I didn't know there was a call. So they're going to click it and open it and try and get more information about why that is. Is this making sense with everybody? Yes, perfect. Awesome. Awesome. I'm not going to go through and give you guys like 1,000 examples of this right now, just because there could be a million different offers you can apply something like this to. But just know that you can easily flip this subject line into anything. Hey, did you miss this video? Right? Or, hey, did you call me just now? Or something along those lines. Just a short 4 or 5 word question that has to do with what you're sending them to. So if you're sending them to a webinar, you could easily talk about how that's a call. Hey, did you miss this call? Or, hey, I missed your call just now, or something along those lines. You can send them to a replay page, right? It's fairly simple. You can connect those dots. What you don't want to do is you don't want to say, can you join this call? And then write a really lengthy email selling them something, and there's no call there, right? That's not ethical, right? You're getting them to open for the wrong reasons. So one, you're going to make your list mad. So don't do that, right? Make your subject line make sense. And I'll give you a tool at the end of this training to where you can kind of test out the effectiveness of your particular headline. Okay. Here's what not to do. Don't do this. Don't say, I guarantee you'll make $1 million, right? Or anything along the lines of that. Okay. The idea here is not to come across spammy, because this particular group of people, this segment, right? Because they haven't necessarily opened recently. A good amount of them have, but some of them have not. The spammier type headlines may not hit the inbox. So in Gmail, they may hit promotions tab, or Yahoo or something like that. It may just go straight to spam because they don't have a record of having conversations with you in their email. So you want to make sure that you're staying away from spam as much as humanly possible. Okay. I got Kurt in here that says he loves spam musubi. I tried my first ones in Hawaii in January. Squirrel. I'm getting off track. But yes, the only spam you should like is your spam musubis.
They're not musubis
What are
or
they, Kiala?
musubis.
What's that?
Potato, potato.
Potato. I'm not an islander. I can't, I have a little room for grace for pronunciations, right? Like I say Hawaii, not Hawaii, or how you guys say it, right? So it's a little leniency. Oh, now I'm getting now there's inappropriate words in the chat about how I'm not from Hawaii. You see this, Cal? I know what that word means. All right. So are we good on the subject lines here? Does this make sense to you guys? Or is everyone, give me a 1 in the chat if you're following along. Give me a 7 in the chat if you have no clue what I'm talking about. I'm not seeing any set. I got a 3. So I don't know what that one was about. We got 107. All right, you guys, I think you guys are getting creative. I like it. Cool. So the goal of the body of the email itself is to sell the click. Okay. In your wide segment, the goal of the email is to sell the click. All right. Unless you are a top tier copywriter with, a lot of experience, you've written millions of words, and you know exactly what you're doing, right? Just sell the click. Okay. That's the goal here. As you get more advanced, as you apply this strategy, as you grow that list, you may throw in some snippets of what's on that sales page. Okay. You may pre-sell a little bit what's on the page. Maybe you'll pre-frame it depending on the relationship you built with your audience. But for the general purposes, the overall strategy, your goal is to sell the click, which means there needs to be a link and a call to action within 3 or 4 sentences. Okay. The reason for that is your wide segment that has not been engaged recently. They're probably, if you got them to open, that's a win. First and foremost, if you got them to open, that's a victory. If you can also get those people to click, that's impressive. Oh, just straight up impressive. Okay. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them to click through and see what you have going on. So you want to limit the amount of copy between them opening the email and them being able to click, but you want to emphasize and put as much impact on the few sentences that you do use in your copy itself. Is everybody following me on this one? Yes, perfect. So a little more context, right? The goal is to get them more information fast. So you can let your landing pages, VSLs, webinars, whatever it is, let that do the selling. Let that do all of the hard work. There's no need for you to go through and try to thumb together the perfect email for this. The idea is less is more, get them to the page, let that do the work itself. They may not buy, they may not further themselves in the funnel, but they are now engaged, right? Which is exactly what we're trying to do with this wide segment. We are just trying to build up our narrow segment. All right. So these are going to be shorter, punchier emails, right? Like I talked about 3-4 sentences. Maybe it's only 1 sentence. One of my best performing cold emails that I ever sent out was 1 sentence long with a simple call to action of just reply back if this sounds good to you. And that particular cold email, I gave that to one of my students. This was February or March of 2018. And he had a marketing agency at the time, and he was struggling getting clients. He actually had to start passing clients out. He was cold emailing about 200 people, and he was getting about 80 to 100 people replying back wanting to book calls. Right? Give me a 1 in the chat if you guys want to know what that sentence said. I figured everybody would. This may not work. This mostly only works in B2B. So if you're selling to businesses, and I don't know if this still works, it's been a while. Sentence was quite simple. This might blow your mind, right? This will show you how simple this can really be and how much most people overthink it. The sentence said, can you handle an additional 10 to 15 clients a week? Reply back if you're interested. That's all it said, right? Fairly simple. No promises, no guarantees, no price points, no selling. It was a 1-word subject line, just said clients. That's all it said. You saw, between 70 and 80% open rate. Cold emails a little different than what we're doing, right? But that one sentence right there generated him. I don't remember the number, so I'm not going to say it off the top of my head. What I can tell you is that he couldn't scale that fast and he had to give away a lot of those leads, a lot of those clients. So I'm not necessarily saying that that's the approach you need to take, but what I'm telling you is that shorter, punchier emails can work, right? Can you handle an additional 10 to 15 clients per week? That's all it was. So he was selling marketing services to chiropractors. That's all it was. Nothing crazy, nothing wild, nothing magical about it. Just send an email to the right person, ask them a simple question that is a no-brainer, and gave them a clear call to action. Didn't ask them to book a call, didn't ask them to go through a webinar, didn't ask them to do anything. Just reply back. If you're interested, let's start the conversation, right? So it's possible to do great numbers with very limited copy. On the flip side of that, you can do a lot of copy and do a lot of sales too. So it's all about context. With our wider segment, they're not familiar with us. The goal is to start basically a conversation, whether that be getting them onto the page and letting the page have the conversation. Maybe it's just kind of pre-framing something, whatever it may be. All right. So I guess you guys would probably want an example on how you guys can apply this. So I already put one in here, thinking ahead, trying to think of all the questions I typically get asked. So subject line could be, can you join this call, John? Right. And then the body of the copy would say something like, if you're looking to melt away that stubborn body fat once and for all, we have a live call happening this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Tap here for all the details. Okay. It could honestly be this simple. It doesn't need to be crazy, right? It doesn't need to be magical. You don't have to use the magical copywriting techniques. Just, hey, if you want this thing that you know you want, we have this other thing that you could join, doesn't cost you anything. And then all the details are right here. Just click this little link. All right. Is this too simple for you guys? Or you think you guys think this might work? You want to apply this? Give me a 1 in the chat if this is something that you guys want to start applying. There we go. Everybody's excited. Now, obviously, if you're going to say somebody that's going to melt away stubborn body fat, you probably want to have some type of health related product that you're promoting, right? And you also want to make sure that, again, you are having a live call. Don't just copy and paste this stuff and start promoting Tim's offers that he's giving you, right? Make sure that the copy fits the offer, and all the information will be on the landing pages that you get from these offers themselves and some type of PDFs or packets that are provided to you. Doesn't need to be crazy, right? So in the wide segment, it could look as simple as this. Now, you could have other sentences in here as well. Like, could be something as simple as like, hey, so-and-so, so I know you just went through and you downloaded the cookbook. Hope that's been working for you. All of our students that have seen massive results also join this live call that we have every single Thursday. Tap here for details, right? So you can use relevant information. So if they came through the funnel and got a lead magnet, maybe it was a cookbook, like I mentioned for this example, right? You can mention that in the copy to kind of fire up their brain again. Oh yeah, I remember I got that cookbook, but I never used it. And then explain, hey, people that got that cookbook loved it. And the guys that got the biggest amounts of results, they did this next thing I'm asking you to do as well. Okay. Give me a 2 in the chat if that makes sense. If you guys understand how you can use this. All right. That's the most important thing. Awesome. All right. Lots of 2s. We got lots of engagement tonight. I like this. Are they always like this, Tim? Are they always just fired up?
No, they're nearly as excited about me as they are about you. So
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
I'm just joking.
Tim.
No,
they all show up for you.
I love this group. No, this is an amazing group of people.
That's amazing. I love it. Look at it. Look, you got some supporters in here, got your back. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna share with you some suggestions, okay? And I say suggestions because you may need to play with this for yourself to figure out what is going to work for you, okay? So wide audience segments suggestions, okay? Not requirements, not you have to do this, but I'm just gonna share with you some different segments that we use, okay? The first one is 100-day openers. Now, instead of giving you the answer, who can clearly define what 100-day openers means in a sentence? Anybody in the chat for brownie points? You just get good brownie points with us. All right, Josh got it. All right. So this refers to people that have at least opened one email within the last 100 days. Okay. So on day 101, if someone hasn't opened since then they are not going to be in this segment. Right? Does this give me a 2 in the chat if you guys understand what this means? Give me a 3 in the chat if you don't know what that means. Okay, I got a 3 and I got a couple 3s. Okay. I didn't prepare a calendar. They had to, so you sent 100 days ago, 99 days ago, if you sent an email and someone opened it and they have not opened any other email since then, they would be included in this segment. All right. And someone who opened the email yesterday would also be included in this segment. And then everyone that is opened in between those time periods would also be included in this segment. So it's they just have to open one email within 100 days. So if you send them 100 emails, they only need to open one of them to be in this segment. All right. For those of you that gave me a 3 in the chat and didn't understand, can you give me a 2 in the chat if you do understand now? And then give me a 4 if you don't understand and you need more clarity. It's okay if you do. We're here for you. Make sure you understand what's going on. All right. Those look like some 2s to me. Perfect. So the 100-day openers, I personally would not recommend going wider than this segment. That's a long time for someone to remember who you are. Okay. Keeping in mind, like for us, for example, we don't venture beyond 100-day openers at Full Stack, and Kialis spends quite a bit of money on advertisements. So his face is kind of all over the internet. It's a pretty face, right? Very good looking face. Some of them he's got the Lamborghini out. Some of them he's walking through fancy mansions. So if you're going to remember somebody, it's probably that pretty face of his. Okay. And we don't email beyond 100-day openers. All right. So I would not suggest to you that you go beyond that threshold. I'm not saying you can't. Do your own testing, get your own results, get your own data to make decisions on. Okay. I'm just sharing with you what we do. Okay. Callie, you got a yacht? How come I haven't been on the yacht with you? What's up with this? We'll talk about that after. So another segment that we have used in the past is 90-day openers. So these are people that have opened in the last 90 days. Okay. You could also do 75-day openers. Okay. Does anybody know why I'm choosing these particular numbers? Because there's a risk level associated with them. Okay. It's riskier to email people that haven't opened for 100 days than it is to email people that have opened in the last 45 days. All right. Someone that's opened in the last month and a half, 45 days, much more likely to open your email than someone that hasn't opened your email in 3 months. So give me a 2 if this makes sense. Okay. So I assigned, this is arbitrary. I just made this up because we can, right? So 100-day openers, I just put at risk level 10. That's going to be the riskiest segment you can mail on the engage side. Okay. You still notice how you still have a risk level associated with somebody in the 45-day opener group. Okay. What we're doing, it's not risk free, right? There's no risk without reward. Okay. If you're going to hit this wider segment, be prepared to make up for it in the narrow segment. That's the point of this particular strategy. right? We are able to hit a broad audience of people that haven't been recently engaged necessarily, right? Which is going to give us a slightly lower open rate. And then we're going to use our narrow segment, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. We're going to use that to then balance it out. Okay. Some arbitrary numbers, for example, if we get a 20% open rate with our wide segment, we are looking for a 30% or greater open rate with our narrow segment. And the hope is that it will balance itself out around 25% or higher. That's the goal, right? If you can do that, then playing this strategy for the long term, at least until the rules change, this should get you to where you want to go. All right. So I'll say it again. I'm sure some people may have missed it. The idea behind this, the goal behind this is your wide segment is not going to open as high. You're not going to get the same open rate on your wide segment as you are your narrow segment. Okay. Your narrow segment is much more likely to open because they're more recently engaged. Okay. So you're going to have to balance the two out. You're not going to get the same open rate between the two. That's the point, right? Like Kiala said at the very beginning of this training, right? The idea is to gamify this. We need to still get the maximum amount of eyeballs on our brand, on our messaging, on our offers. And we need to stay in good graces with the ESPs, keep our domain reputation good, keep our IP reputation good, even though that's pretty much out of our control, right? And keep our audience engaged as much as possible and email people that want our emails, right? Sonia, I'm glad you asked that question. I am prepared for it. That slide is coming up here in a little bit. I have all of your baseline data numbers that you should be shooting for here. And I'm going to give you everything that you could. I'm going to give you probably more information than you know what to do with on this particular training. Joan, we'll talk more about what the goal open rate will be here in a minute. I don't want to confuse you guys with that. Just know that the idea is to balance them. Yes, yes. So the people that you mail in your 100-day openers will also include your 90-day, your 75-day, your 60-day, and your 45-day. So all this is doing is just adding more people to who you're mailing. Does that answer that question for you, Mark, in a clear way? Yes, perfect. Hopefully that answered it for others as well. I'm getting ready to segue into the narrow segment talk and training. Does anybody have specific questions on the wide segment that does not include what open rate you're looking for? Give me a 2 if you're ready to move on. Give me a 3 if you have a question. And I'll try and catch a 3 in here. You guys type fast. Got a bunch of 2s from somebody. We like that. Well, that's a lot of 2s. All right, I think we got it. I think I explained that pretty clearly. So that's good. These people probably think I've trained this before. What is a good open rate on the wide segment? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Open rate doesn't matter right in this moment. It will in 20 minutes or so when we get to that point of the training. So it's good that you guys are thinking about that already, though. That means you guys are paying attention, which is